Alright, in this video we're going to work on the helicopter movement. Get that going. So let's go back to here. And we'll start with a basic movement. Just when the mouse is pressed, we'll go up, and when it's not pressed, we'll go down. And then we'll add some gravity stuff later. It gets a little more complicated, but hopefully I can explain it well. So this is perfect. We want this mouse down handler. I'm also going to want a mouse up handler. So we're just going to copy, Control C, and then Control V on that line. And we're going to need a mouse up handler that's going to run when we go mouse up. Okay, and then that's going to be another function, mouse up handler, like so. And we're going to make another global variable. Let mouse is pressed. And we'll initialize it to false. Okay, and then this mouse is pressed variable, we're just going to simply, when the mouse goes down, right, when this mouse down handler happens, let's just put that at the start here, mouse is pressed is going to be assigned true. Okay, and then I'm just going to add a comment here. This will be start game on mouse press, or mouse down, I guess, technically. And then on the mouse up handler, we just go mouse is pressed is assigned false. Right, so when the mouse down happens, we set it to true. When mouse up happens, we release the mouse, we set it to false. And we're going to use that for our movement, right? Because when the mouse is down, we want the helicopter to move up. When we release the mouse, we want it to move down. Okay, so another thing that we're going to need is we're going to need some variables for our helicopter. Now, I want to create an object literal, which is just a collection of variables. So we do these braces here, and then usually we list each property on a new line. And I can do like, oh, the helicopter is going to have an X value. And let's see if I can remember, where do we make its X value? Our canvas is 800 wide, I think. So our X value should probably start around 200, maybe 250, something like that. Let's try 200. Our Y value, maybe we'll start somewhere in the middle. It's 600, maybe a little higher, 250. The width is 80, and the height is 40. And that's just the default size of the image. The image is 80 by 40, and that's what we're drawing it as. So that's our width and our height. And then because we're going to do movement, no, we'll talk about this later. That's good enough for now. So this helicopter has an X, Y, width, and a height. So now when I draw the helicopter, I've got my draw start here, right? At this 200, I want to use heli.x and then heli.y. And that's how we access the properties in this. The variable name is heli, and then the x.y will access these values here. Okay, and then we also draw the helicopter somewhere else, don't we? Draw game, we're going to draw the helicopter here, heli.x and heli.y, and then we also draw it in the game over. Now we're going to talk about this later. I don't think I'm going to do this video, but we can make this a lot more efficient. We're repeating a bunch of code here, and I'm going to show you guys how we can make it a lot more efficient so that we don't have to repeat that code. We can reuse it. But for now, we had to update the variable in 3 different places because I'm drawing this helicopter in 3 different places, right? The start, draw game, and draw game over functions. And that's kind of annoying that I had to change it in 3 places. So we'll fix that later. But for now, that hopefully didn't break anything. No, helicopter's still there, good. Now, the fact that these are now variables means that I can change them. Technically, I really only need to change the Y value because we're just going to be going up and down. But these other variables are useful too because maybe we'll change them in the future. For collision detection, it's good to know the width and the height, that kind of stuff. Okay, now I don't want to move in the start screen. I want to move in the game on part, right? Now, what I want to do here is that the start and the game over are pretty boring. They just draw something. This is where all the action is going to happen, and I'm going to do more than just draw the game, right? I'm going to have some logic here. So I actually want to create a new function called run game. Because I don't want my draw game function to do more than just draw the game. That's its job, is to draw the game. I don't want it also to be in charge of movement and collision and stuff like that. So I actually want to define another function called run game. And usually when I do a game, there's a logic section and then a draw section. Right? This run game is going to be called over and over again, and I want to do any logic, any collision detection, any movement, that kind of stuff. And then I want to draw everything. So this run game function is going to call the draw game function, like so. And before it draws the game, we're going to call a function called move heli, which doesn't exist yet. So function move heli, like so. Now it exists. And this is where I'm going to put the code to move the helicopter. All right. So like I said, this project's going to be a little bigger, and I hope you really notice that we're going to break up our code into these logical functions. A function should have one main job, okay? And it really makes your code more organized and easier to understand and to update. So it's a good habit to get into. So let's just save this for a second. And in here, I got to make sure I'm calling run game. And then that run game function calls move heli, and then the draw game. And let's put some code in here. If mouse is pressed is true, heli.y, I want it to move upwards. So let's go plus equals a negative, I guess I could go minus equals. I'm just used to doing this. -3, let's say. Okay, so that should change the y value by -3, so it should move up. Let's try that. All right, so click. Oh, all right, cool. There we go. Mouse is pressed, and it's moving up. All right, so on the mouse down, it switches it, and then because it switches so fast, it's catching that my mouse is pressed, and I'm moving up. Awesome. We'll add a simple little else, heli.y plus equals +3. So if mouse is down, I'm moving up. Otherwise, I'm moving down. All right, let's try that. Up, down, up. Yeah, there we go. I'm holding the mouse, it goes up. I let go, it goes down. Okay, so you'll see this is uniform motion, right? It's like constant 3 down, constant 3 up. In our demo game, it had, this could work. Like you could totally go with this. But I think I'm going to make an extra video to talk about the gravity. Because then it's like when you press up, it kind of has a delay, right? It doesn't just go up right away. And I think that makes it a little more interesting type of movement. Okay, anyway, that is it for this video, I think. Just that mouse pressed we set up. Mouse is pressed, and then reorganizing our run game into the move helicopter and the draw game functions. And I think this comment belonged with here. And that looks good. Okay, hope that made sense. We'll see you in the next video.